Good afternoon and welcome to My Collaborative Team's first CollaborEAT, a digital collaborative discussion. My name is Ed Sachs and I'm the president of My Collaborative Team. We're the world's #1 circulated weekly newsletter and your collaborative marketing partner. Our newsletter is opened by over 2,400 readers every week. Our website with member listings receives 1,100 visits per month, with an average of 2 minutes per visit spent on the site. If you enjoy today's CollaborEAT program, we invite you to join My Collaborative Team. CollaborEAT will be presented on a monthly basis and will only be available free to MCT members in the future. Next month's presentation on the same topic of selling the collaborative process will be Joran Jenkins, collaborative marketing guru and current vice president of the Florida Academy of Collaborative Professionals. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Kevin Scudder. Kevin is the creator of the Seattle Collaborative Law Center in Seattle, Washington. He has built a successful private peacemaking practice that incorporates his values of compassion and integrity, as well as intellectual and emotional growth and development. Kevin is a graduate of the IACP's inaugural Leadership Academy, a trainer, author, and regular contributor to the collaborative literary community. He is past president of Washington State's State Collaborative Association and a current member of the board of IACP. Welcome, Kevin.
Ed, thanks for having me. I appreciate your inviting me to be part of the inaugural MCT CollaborEAT program.
We are ready for you to get started.
Let's get going. I will note that I haven't had breakfast yet, so I hope everyone has got their feet up, enjoying their lunch or dinner, wherever you may be. And I gotta say, I do appreciate being invited to give this presentation, but I look at it as being part of a dialogue. So please email in your questions. You can use the chat box, I believe. I'm going to let Eric Sachs kind of gather those questions and get those to me as we go through. We had sent out some poll questions before we got started today, and many of you have responded. I do note that, you know, Ed reached out and Rebecca reached out and said, hey, Kevin, would you do this? And my immediate response was yes. You know, because I really believe strongly in building collaborative community and, you know, helping others expand their collaborative practice. And then it was only a few days ago, I actually looked at the handout and I realized that this is about how to close the sale of collaborative practice. So I'm going to start kind of on a contrarian note, or to give you a different lens about how to invite our clients to choose the collaborative process. I don't think it's a sales job. I come from a view that what we do is we create an environment where we invite our clients to choose collaborative practice. And if we do our job correctly, that they're going to choose collaborative practice more so than any other process. You know, of course, we have to assess the clients, and we can tailor our presentation in a way that, you know, we're assessing, and if they're not appropriate for collaborative process, then, you know, we're clear with them that the process isn't appropriate and they're going to choose something else. I'm going to bring up the two anchor words for collaborative practice, which are the paradigm shift. And there's a direct correlation between our living in the paradigm shift and our clients choosing collaborative practice. And so, you know, it's a question of how do we live in the paradigm shift. And so when we get to the point of where we're meeting with our clients for these initial consultations, and going over different divorce processes, that they're going to choose the collaborative process. So, you know, one of the things, you know, one of the poll questions that we were asking of you is, you know, how much collaborative work are you doing? And is collaborative work associated with the participation agreement? And yes, it is. Of course, a collaborative case, you have to have a signed participation agreement. But I really encourage everyone to do something collaborative every single day of your lives. I don't care if it's the weekend, a day off, vacation, you know, it's the thing of doing the little things that are going to allow you to expand and create your collaborative practice. There are, let's see, one of the articles that I've written in the past on it takes the little things. And I think that it was recently part of the My Collaborative Team email newsletter. I encourage you to go ahead and read that. I also want to talk about comfort levels, is that sometimes we have to go outside of our own comfort zone in terms of explaining collaborative practice and trying different things. So I'm going to come back to how do we sell collaborative practice? And a number of you had a lot of good questions. And one of them is, how do we bring in the other partner, you know, into a collaborative case? And I want to get to that, but I also want to just first start by sharing what happens in my office when a potential new client gives me a call and says, hey, I want to come talk to you about ... Now, they may come in and say, hey, I want to talk to you about mediation. Hey, I want to talk to you about suing my spouse. Hey, I want to talk about arbitration. Or, hey, I want to talk about collaborative practice. And I don't really vary too much in how I meet my client where they are. You know, first of all, we start with introductions and just getting to know each other a little bit. And, you know, if they come at me saying, I want this result with this result, you know, I will ask them just to breathe a little bit. One of my favorite songs whenever I'm giving a training or a presentation is Anna Nalic's, N-A-L-I-C-K song, Breathe. And I encourage you guys to go listen to it. I've got it queued up here, but I don't want to use time for this webinar for that. But it's a centering way to be, to meet our clients. And it's really important that we have no preconceived notion as to what this client is really needing, because they come to us and they say, I want to do mediation, you know, I want to do collaboration. And the objective when I meet with the client is to, again, just get to know them. But one of the keys is I really want to know what they think they want. You know, so if I want my husband out of the house, I want my wife out of the house, I want to be a 50-50 parent, I want, you know, all my separate property. I don't even write notes about that stuff because it really doesn't, it's not helpful for me in assessing just what process they need. So my question to them always is, you know, Ed, if I was talking to you, I would say, Ed, I'm experiencing that you're really uncertain or you're really sad. Am I right about that? And I will keep asking until I get it right. And then I'll say, what does a happy Ed look like? And you're either going to say, I don't know. And I'll say, that's okay, because I have no expectation that you're going to know what a happy Ed looks like. More oftentimes than not, a person is going to be able to say, yes, you know, I want less stress in my life. I want, you know, to be independent. I want the kids to be okay. You know, and what hobbies do you do? And well, I don't do hobbies. I used to play guitar, or I used to play squash, or I used to go sailing. You know, is that something that would make you happy? Well, yes. And I said, can we say that that's one of your objectives in what you want as you're going through the conflict or the divorce or the legal separation that you're going through? And eventually we're going to get to some agreement as to looking into the future, that they see themselves in the future. And that's the key to the whole thing for me. And because then I know what we're trying to achieve. And I'll even put it in those stark terms to the client of, look at what I'm hearing from you is you're not happy here. You would like to be happy or secure or safe, or your kids to be safe, and that's over here. Let's talk about what different processes are available to you to get from here to there. Would that be okay? And then it's always been 100% of, people saying, yeah, that sounds good to me. So I'm going to share my screen, and I think Eric is going to email you these forms that I use as I work my way through an initial consultation. So let's see, let's go here. So here in Washington State, we have the Uniform Collaborative Law Act, and the UCLA requires us to inform the clients, any prospective client, that they have a choice, that they have kitchen table settlements, do it yourself, early intervention mediation, as you can see, collaborative law, litigation, and then arbitration is going to be on the last page. And I explained to him that as a collaboratively trained attorney, that I have this obligation under this statute that governs my practice as a collaborative attorney to explain that you have different processes. I also note that as a litigator, in my 20 years as a litigator before I laid down my sword and shield, that I didn't have to do that. So, then I get to ask them, do you have any questions about any of these different processes? And I also get to point to the litigation and the arbitration, and I'm educating them, and I don't do that anymore. I litigated for 20 years. I did a lot of damage, and I do only out-of-court client-focused resolution. So we go through that handout. And then I take them through the conflict resolutions option. This was done by Ann Lucas and Mark Weiss as part of the Seattle Collaborative Law Training Learning Center. They've allowed me to use this with acknowledgement to them, and I'm sure you could as well. But this handout is, and I use a black and white one, but the color one sure looks nice too. I point out that when you start on the left side of this, that you have high involvement and control as a client. But as you go to the different divorce processes, working yourself to the right, that you lose more and more control. I will put my pen vertically between the collaborative practice and the attorney settlement columns or sections on this handout. Again, pointing out to them that I don't do anything to the right of my pen, that my value is, everything on the left side of the table. All right, so another handout is, look at, if once you get a better idea of, what it is that what a happy ed looks like and what you want to achieve, here's a possible game plan. And I will, you see here, right here this is the divorce. We've done hundreds of divorces. That's filling out pleadings. And I point out to him, I said, that's not really important to me. What's important to me are these things. These are these primary and other objectives, the high-end goals, the key elements, I want both of us to be financially self-sufficient. I want the kids to be okay. I want them to have opportunities. I want a flexibility. I said, this is what is important to me. And Ed, I keep picking on you, but your name is short and it works for these purposes. So, Ed, I want to make sure that your final resolution, which is just legal stuff, includes as much of this as possible. By the way, I want you to know that I have found out that a good resolution incorporates not only your high-end goals and what's important to you, but also what your partner or your spouse's high-end goals are. And then I talk about here that, we create a team. We have the 2 clients, the 2 attorneys, and then we can add as necessary. And I'm going to come back to this later on in response to one of the questions we had before this webinar started. But then we talk here about, creating ground rules, signing a participation agreement, information gathering, and you can follow along. But again, part of this is getting the clients, because the client is sitting right here in their despair, in their sadness, in their anger. And we can use the initial client consultation to get them moving one way or the other, whether it's to sadness or whether it's to hope. We just got to get them moving. And so this visual is very helpful to people to get their eyes moving along. And then here's a new, Ann Lucas, and again, Mark Weiss came up with a new spreadsheet just of the progression of the collaborative process. And I just wanted to share it with you. Again, feel free to use it with attribution, but it's kind of got a swervy movement element to it. So feel free to use those handouts as you start bringing in more clients. So, what's happened? I mean, I've been talking for 10, 12 minutes at this point. Is the idea is the client, we've built a rapport, we've built trust. One of the other things is I'm not sitting here taking notes, not meeting their eye contact, because it's almost like not everything they say is important. It's what they're feeling that's important. And you're creating this space in this container where the only answer they really can give you is a yes. Okay, so is that a sales job? I don't think so. I did have a local coach. Boy, when I took the collaborative training in 2008, and I started to dive into this, and I had conflict with this coach. One of the things he said to me was, Kevin, you're a real good salesman of the collaborative process. And I still think about that. And here I find myself on MCT giving a presentation about selling collaborative process. So I will take anyone's feedback on this. Maybe I don't like salespeople. It's like, or maybe the people who are trying to sell me stuff, usually it's stuff I don't want. So looking at it as a sales job, we're giving them something they want. We are offering them an opportunity to enter into something we know they want, they don't know that they want. And so it's more of an idea of creating a situation where they can say yes to.
Now, Kevin, we do have a couple questions if you're interested.
I would love some questions. Thank you.
Okay, so the first one comes from Angela and asks, are there any ethical obligations for all attorneys to provide the conflict resolution options?
Angela, there is ethical obligations because we, the UCLA here in the state of Washington, and Angela, I'm not sure, if you're in Oregon, I'm not sure what your jurisdiction is. But as lawyers, we're required to comply with the statutes of the state. So it turns into an ethical obligation through the Uniform Collaborative Law Act. So that's how I would answer the question.
Now, I believe Joran Jenkins wants to hop on and have an audio conversation with you. I'm going to pop her audio up and you guys can chat about Joran. You're live.
Hi, Joran. Yep.
Oh, wow. This is amazing. To your question, is this really a sales job? I think that the answer there, and as you know, I do an awful lot of what I choose to call marketing, even better word, probably promoting. Best word, communicating the value of. So I love the way that you have the whole discussion around the word to sell. I don't think there's any question that we're selling the process. I think what's happened is that the sales connotation has taken on a negative connotation. And I think that's too bad for us because the way that you've explained my sales process intrigues me. I quite love it. I love the fact that you have this discussion where the only smart, intelligent, empathetic answer to you is yes. You've created an environment where, you know, they want everything the same way that you want it because you understand them. And so the answer is yes. The only time for me that the answer is no is when they're already so close to agreement, really, not just theoretically, but really they're so close to agreement. I have both of them in the same room with me. Maybe mediation is a less expensive option. Maybe there aren't highly emotional issues. Maybe they've been separated for a while and they already have a time-sharing plan that's been working amazingly well. You know, I know you can have situations where there's a courtless process that is equally effective. It might not gift them with the opportunities to learn as much as they will learn in the collaborative process about each other, about brainstorming, about problem solving, about communicating, but it will get them the resolution that they want even less expensively than collaborative, and expense may also be one of their major goals. So I hope that makes sense to you. But again, thank you so much for that whole discussion around your sales process. I do call it a sales process, but not out loud to collaborative people or to my clients.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's a danger also to the local bar, family law bar in general, that if we talk about selling collaborative practice, it can get denigrated in their community. You know, when they talk to their clients, they're not going to, right. Yep. So look, it's just a sales job. And you do a great job, Joran, also, and I appreciate it, of answering one of the questions that we received of, is there anyone who does only collaborative cases who's not destitute? And your comment ties in what I was saying earlier about it takes the little things and doing something collaborative every day. What you're talking about is doing collaborative work, but it's not a collaborative case.
Right.
You're meeting your clients where they are. They don't have the need of the full collaborative process. You know, are you out of court only? You don't do contested hearings?
No, I'm not. I still have cases that are in court. They're just so few and far between. It's become amazing. And I totally put that down to my attitude.
Yes. And your willingness to go outside of your comfort zone and call the other attorney, you know, and invite them. So I just had that experience where someone came to me. I've had like 2 or 3 of these in the last 6 months of people coming to me with pleadings that were filed with the court, and they want what I have or what I have to offer. And they say, will you please reach out? I want this to be a collaborative case. You know, I don't want to go to court. And I just had a case where my client got served. I emailed and called the other attorney and invited them into the collaborative process. And we have our first 4-way meeting next Monday.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And hopefully, you know, so we've turned a litigated case into a collaborative case, right? So.
Oh, I was just going to say, we did get another question in here. from Eva. She wants to know, what strategies do you use to get the reluctant spouse to buy into the collaborative process?
Okay, so there was a question, there's a few questions of, you know, this thing of, and I just get a little reactive to it, of selling, of buying in. There was a question of how do you catch the other party? You know, there's no violence involved in the collaborative process. And again, so much of this is by invitation. So there's different ways, and I had asked, we had asked some poll questions of people about your different comfort level of how to, you know, your client comes in and, I'm sorry, Eric, who asked the question?
That was from Eva.
All right, so Eva hires me to do a collaborative divorce. And she says, my partner is going to be reluctant. So there's a series of things. And Eva, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you and I say, Eva, you know, I have a big toolbox and there are different things that we can do. Let's you and I brainstorm about what you're comfortable with, and again, what you think is going to achieve the hoped for result that they will accept the invitation. So one of the things, Eva, is that I can prepare you for a conversation with your partner, and I can give you an extra set of all those handouts that we just went over, and you could sit down with your partner. And you say, no, you know, there's some domestic violence, or I think it's going to really trigger that person, you know, to even know I'm thinking about a divorce. Well, all right. So another option is, are you comfortable with me reaching out to you? And we asked a series of questions. Are you willing to email the other spouse? Are you willing to write a letter? Are you willing to phone call the other spouse? Are you willing to invite the other spouse? Eva, if it's okay with you, I'm happy to do a process consultation with you and your spouse together, if you would like. And if we go that way, I'm going to have them sign a waiver, you know, making clear that they know I represent you and I don't represent them. And this will be only a process conversation. And so then, and that's one of the most effective means of bringing in that reluctant partner, is because I do the same thing. I'm as kind and welcoming to them and hopeful for them for a happy future as I am with my spouse. Another way to do it is, if Joran represents your spouse and I represent you, I will call Joran, and Joran, let's say, is 50-50. You know, well, this could be litigation, this could be, and I say, well, how would you be comfortable asking your client if they're willing to meet with the four of us? And then we just have an open, transparent conversation between the four of us. Another way to do it is, you know, in these times, is do it by Zoom video. Is that we could do a Zoom video, short little 30-minute, you know, get together. It's all about comfort level and, you know, willingness of people to, again, use our collaborative skills and not undermine the exploration process. I hope that answered your questions. This leads me into another question that we had asked of, you know, if you're given the choice between mediation and collaboration, you know, what would you choose? And, you know, the most people, you know, it was about 20% mediation, 80% collaboration. So as part of your presentation, if you weigh heavily, if they come in and say, I want to do mediation, and you give a mediation presentation, you're missing an opportunity to have them hire you for a collaborative case. Okay, I've got, I'm mentoring someone who is heavy on mediation, and they prefer mediation. And the people met with her, liked her, and said, we decided to go collaborative, and hired 2 other attorneys. And she said, wait a minute, I do collaborative too. And, you know, we kind of dissected that presentation, and it was because she accepted the fact that they came to her for mediation and wasn't curious about, are you looking at other options? Because you know there are other options available to you. Okay. So, you know, be mindful of where, you know, how you present yourself. If you present yourself closed off to, it's like I close myself off to litigation, arbitration, attorney settlement conference. Okay. And there's a question in the chat on the visual chart where I put my pen. You know, the question here is about depicting settlement conference as a caucus scenario. You know, it could, because out here, and maybe that's jurisdictional, Carol Ann, and I don't know if you want to clarify your question, but in the state of Washington, you know, we have the settlement conference requirement on the case schedule. And out here, that is traditionally being done in a caucus setting with a mediator going back and forth. You know, and that's the settlement conference piece. The, you know, Carol Ann, I think you're on board if you want to clarify your question.
Well, not really clarification. I'm just thinking that a settlement conference is a possible scenario where everybody can be in the same room. And the way I see it, certainly more something more productive and efficient than an attorney, the attorney settlement process. And certainly something that I would consider working in and have, I think it's further away from the court process than the attorney settlement process. Personally, I will work in all of those except for the court process, but I just was curious to know why that wouldn't be, you know, an option that's somewhat better than court, much better than court, I would say.
Well, I think for the client, it's better to court, but I think you get into values, Carol Ann, and my value in the collaborative process is that the clients get to make the decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you and I have a case and we're not meeting, but we're just emailing back proposals back and forth, we're really taking the clients out of the process.
Oh yeah, I agree with attorney settlement. I strongly discourage that. Absolutely. But I think with a settlement conference, as it was depicted on that chart, you know, you have the couple, you have the attorneys, and everybody sitting in the same room. I guess in ways it would be mediation, maybe without a mediator, or maybe use a facilitator. I think it could be a lot more positive than just depicting it as caucus, where each client's in a different room with their lawyer and somebody's kind of running back and forth, which is sort of litigation mediation, or mediation in the litigation process.
Yeah, and I think let's say about 10% of clients say, well, wait a minute, you know, how is this really different from, you know, collaborative? Or and the difference I get to talk about is the participation agreement and the protections, you know, that come along with the participation agreement of confidentiality, full disclosure, good faith negotiations, and that in a settlement conference, you don't have those assurances.
No, sure. And none of the other processes really. So obviously,
yeah, correct.
Yeah, that's the best chance of completely staying out of court. And it's best for lawyers even, because we don't have to think about the possibility of going into court. So we're free to truly work on their resolution with them. So I was just curious. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And, you know, the other thing I'll put a plug in on everyone is collaborative mediation. All right, we're doing more and more of that out here in the state of Washington, and it's really simply where the mediator, you know, whether it be the coach or the financial neutral, they're taking the lead on facilitating the conversation. There's a signed participation agreement, and the attorneys are only brought in, you know, to if there's an impasse in the room, there's a power imbalance. and we're there to do the final pleadings. The disqualification provision in the collaborative mediation agreement, however, raises that level of trust and comfort and assurance that no one's using the process just to blow things up. So Gary had a question.
Gary's live if he wants to. Oh, he doesn't want to speak, so we can move on.
Okay.
Do you want to?
Curiosity. So I think I see his chat of curiosity, and the concept of persistent curiosity. That's what I use in the boy. I mean, don't we all love having someone else be curious about us and about our family? And again, there's that direct correlation between building rapport and creating that level of trust. And so then, if Gary and I were talking, he may even say, Jesus, excuse me, but you're different from any attorney that I experienced. What process do you think would be best for me? And, I tell people straight out that I have a bias for, in the appropriate cases. Joran mentioned that there are certain cases you don't need all the process. But for the appropriate case, that I just like collaborative practice so much better than mediation. I like collaborative mediation too, because the whole concept of having that container. So, are we selling safety and community, which in these times is really very, very important? Yeah, probably so. But my value is that magical things can happen in that community. So I do want to say that, let's see, there was a question, does doing all collaborative work require that all your cases are signed participation agreements? It was a 50-50 response. So 50% of you said yes. All collaborative work means that all your cases have signed participation agreements, and 50% of you said no. I guess, not all my work is collaborative. The question, am I making a living doing collaborative work? Absolutely, I'm making a great living. My income went up 35% when I stopped litigating, because I didn't have to do free work. I didn't have to write off time, to prevent ethics complaints or bar complaints, from unhappy clients. But again, I do collaborative work every single day, whether it's in estate planning, probate, personal injury work. I bring those collaborative skills to all aspects of my practice. So I'm not destitute, and I feel like all my work is collaborative work. So that's my answer to that question. So yes, you can make a good living being a collaborative practitioner, and wear those words proudly.
Kevin, we did get from Karen Saxon. Maybe she'll want to hop on and have a conversation with you. She wants to know more about, or the differences between collaborative mediation and just collaborative. I put her audio up, so if she has some more clarification, or if you want to get some more clarification from her, maybe you can go ahead and do that.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you all. This is great.
So collaborative, the collaborative process, two attorneys, okay? One of the questions was, how do I sell the clients on having a full collaborative team? Here in the state of Washington, we'll use a coach, we'll use a financial neutral child specialist if the coach and the parents determine that a child specialist would be helpful to the process. So one of the questions was, how do I sell the clients? Well, I don't do a collaborative case without a coach and without a financial neutral, because I just believe that the cases are less expensive, they're more efficient, and every client has the right to have an expert in all areas of the uncoupling process. which are the physical uncoupling, the emotional uncoupling, and the financial uncoupling. So those are my values, and really I get to choose who to work with and not work with. And if people think they can meet without a coach, and the coach they may only meet with once, all right, I just want to make sure that when things go to heck, that the coach is available, because it's unfair to try to bring in a facilitator or a coach only when you have a mess on your hand and expect the coach to clean it up. So I explain all of that to the clients. The collaborative mediation, Karen, it started to come about when known collaborative professionals who were doing mediations would reach impasse, and they would reach out, they would send the clients out to collaboratively trained attorneys. And I just started refusing to be part of it unless there was a signed participation agreement, you know, letting the clients know that the attorneys were there not to screw things up. Because as a mediator, I've had the experience too many times of reaching a resolution in the room, sending the clients out, you know, for due diligence, and then the attorneys saying, look, give me $2 grand more and I can get you a better deal. You know, and I'm not going to be part of that. So the collaborative mediation is just a way to, because we have so many pro se parties who won't hire attorneys because they're scared of fees. It's just another way, Karen, to assure the clients that it's safe to bring us on and also smart to bring us on. So, and then it just kind of steamrolls in terms of earning a living as a collaborative professional. You know, you do good work for good people, you're going to get referrals, you know, till the time it's time to retire. So
Right.
did that answer your question?
It did. I guess my question is, as a mediator, and I, because I'm not an attorney, I stopped doing pro se mediations. I really will just go in to do the other one. But what you're saying then is, as a mediator, how do you, when you do collaborative mediation, you're bringing in those people anyway. What makes it, besides the impasse agreement, which is the big difference between mediation and the collaborative process, where is that? That's where I'm getting confused. That's why we talk about the collaborative process as opposed to mediation. Are you just saying in pro se cases?
You're a mediator, right?
Yes, as
Okay.
well as facilitator. Yeah, right.
Okay, so and you're a facilitator in the collaborative world?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're working with pro se parties, and you see the dynamic in the room. And
I do. I stopped working with pro se parties because I like the collaborative process and felt that there should be attorneys involved. So what would be the difference if people came and they used the facilitator, as what I'm hearing you say is the neutral and the and the mental health person or the coach would do most of the initial things, and then we bring in the lawyer, the attorneys at the end in your collaborative facilitation, in your collaborative mediation. Am I understanding that right?
we'd probably have to have dinner together to make sure, but I would likely say yes, you are correct that you know, there's different ways to get into a collaborative mediation. Say you and the financial neutral are doing a co-mediation with pro ses, and you get to an impasse and you realize that it would be helpful to have the law in the room. You give the clients a choice. I can refer you to litigation attorneys, and there's a risk of having this process hijacked, or we could bring in collaborative attorneys, sign a participation agreement, and we'll just bring in the attorneys when we need to. They don't have to be at every meeting, but there will be transparency, full disclosure, and the attorneys are they have no financial interest in messing up the process because they're disqualified if the mediation process, the collaborative mediation process doesn't work. Okay, so it's kind of like, you know, going from Joran's statements of when we meet a client, if they're already in mediation, then I'll likely turn it into a collaborative mediation. And I might only be billing 3 or 4 hours because I'm not needed in the process. Usually, if it's a collaborative case, then it's not a collaborative mediation case. All right. If it's the 2 attorney, you know, coach financial to client model. Collaborative mediation ordinarily is just used when people are already in mediation and they're coming to me to say, this isn't working very well. And then we'll turn it into a collaborative mediation case. So Karen, if you email me through Ed, I'm happy to send you my collaborative mediation agreements. And you can, maybe those will educate you as well.
Kevin, I want to get to Valerie Weaver, who is one of the newest participants of My Collaborative Team. And she asked if you can describe how your income increased when you stopped litigating and why you think that happened.
Happiness. All right, next question. No, Valerie, welcome to the world, the collaborative community here. There's a couple different reasons for it. One, I didn't have to write off any fees because of fear that the clients were going to be unhappy with me and file a bar complaint or threaten to file a bar complaint. I didn't have to write any fees off because I just knew it was unethical, or my values were they couldn't afford this. Okay, if my fees were more than their community estate, you know, I can't really in good conscience you know, go after fees. The most, you know, so instead of my collection rate being 65%, you know, my current collection rate is 99%. You know, so people are paying their bills, and, you know, the referrals that I get from happy clients are, you know, just bringing people who can afford the process. And anything I write off, I get to choose. I get to do my own pro bono cases. It's not forced upon me. So that's the big difference. That's how my income went up.
All right, we're going to go ahead and unmute Joran here, who says she has another question for you.
I didn't say I had another question. I have an answer.
Her hand was raised.
Sorry. So Kevin, you mentioned a couple of things in talking to Karen Sachs, and I just wanted to throw in additional comments, maybe validating if people haven't had this experience yet. But Adam Cordova and I had a prenup that we were collaborating on this morning, and tensions were getting extremely high in the room. It was kind of fascinating to watch because these people care about each other so much, and their goals are so much more client-centered, other client-centered, in the sense that they want each other to be happy. And we ended up doing exactly what you're talking about, which has happened in other cases, but in this one, it's really kind of so clear. We had to refer them both to estate lawyers. This is a prenup situation, so estate planning becomes a part of it, and neither Adam nor I is trained in probate or wills and trusts. And so, like you, in the mediation collaboration, we were sending them out to estate lawyers who we know, one of whom at least has been trained collaboratively. We know those estate lawyers aren't going to blow up this agreement. They are actually going to help our clients understand what they're signing and why they will or will not sign the agreement the way it's written, and maybe some other alternatives to suggest when they get back in the room together. So a really comfortable referral out for us as collaborative lawyers, knowing that we're doing the best thing possible for our clients, and feeling really good about, I mean, this is one of the reasons why collaborative makes me so much happier. By the same token, I had a collaborative case that was so difficult, and it was pro bono, by the way. It was part of my pro bono project. It was so horribly difficult that what ended up happening was, and we had a fairly new facilitator who was just getting her chops. I think this was her second case. She turned into the mediator and truly ended up mediating. The attorneys were having such a hard time with the clients, and she did exactly what mediators do from her mental health background with her collaborative experience, but collaboration wasn't really working in this particular room. And so we separated into separate rooms, which I don't even like in mediation, generally speaking. And she mediated. She went back and forth, and the clients reached resolution, and they were happy with the resolution. It was truly an amazing experience. So kudos to you, Kevin, for talking about collaborative mediation. And really, the reason that I'm so in love with this process is because it gives us the latitude to do what's best for our clients, what they want, what they need, the process that they need to get where they need to go. It's just amazing.
It is, and that's the doing collaborative work every day. And Joran, you know, your flexibility and Adam's flexibility of looking at the situation, assessing it, and giving the clients what they need. I really invite people to go to my website at seattleclc.com, and I had the web designer break down all the different collaborative offerings that we do. So you're going to see, you know, collaborative practice, you're going to see collaborative mediation, you're going to see collaborative prenuptial or collaborative postnuptials. We have a signed agreement for collaborative prenuptials, you know, that make clear that the attorneys are in this solely for the purpose of helping the clients create the agreements that they need to create, and that we cannot be involved in any future litigation about interpretation or enforceability. So much of this is just educating the clients of what there is, but like Joran said, of what is possible, because the clients don't know what's possible, but we do, as we, you know, share, like what MCT is doing is just connecting all of us, and IACP, and our local, you know, FACP and CPW, Collaborative Professionals of Washington, in state of Washington. You know, we're in challenging times right now, and the concept of our collaborative community and facing adversity and coming together and sharing and helping each other get through this and helping each other learn, I think, is what it's all about. So Ed, thank you very much for having me. It's just been great sharing lunch with all of you.
Kevin, we want to thank you for your wisdom. This has been wonderful. We really appreciate it. I want to encourage all of our collaborative colleagues to be extra safe and practice social distancing. It isn't worth the chance. The spreading of this horrible virus could cause devastating harm to our senior citizens. If you are a member of My Collaborative Team, we have multiple Zoom accounts to accommodate all of our members with the opportunity to use Zoom in their collaborative cases for free. Check us out at mycollaborativeteam.com. Once again, thank you, Kevin, and thank you, everybody, for joining us. Join us. You'll see promotions coming out soon. Join us next month with Joran Jenkins as our host. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks all.